The transmission began without warning. Across every screen, every comm device, every hololink in every city, colony, and outpost on Earth, a single image blinked to life. A red swirl of chaos, cities incinerating, skies torn by alien fire. The narrator's voice came next, mechanical, detached, and chillingly calm. 10 billion humans have been eradicated. Earth is next. In the United Nations Command Center, New Chicago, the words hit like a hammer. Screens reflected pale faces, eyes wide, mouths open in disbelief. Panic spread faster than any virus. Security officers shouted orders, but their voices were drowned by screams, alarms, and the endless static of interrupted feeds. Dr. Elara Miles stood at the rear, hands clasped tightly. Her lab coat, normally crisp and authoritative, was wrinkled, dusted with the residue of hurried evacuation. She didn't scream. She didn't even flinch. Her mind, sharp and precise, raced through the impossible. 10 billion lives gone. Entire colonies vaporized. And Earth, her home, would be next if she didn't act. Dr. Miles? A voice called, urgent but trembling. Lieutenant Vargas, young and jittery, approached, eyes darting between her and the screens. What do we do? They killed everyone. Elara turned, meeting his gaze with calm intensity. Panic won't save anyone. We need a plan. Fast. Gather the scientists, the engineers, the pilots, anyone capable of thinking ahead of them. Now. Vargas hesitated. Is it even possible? They're overconfident. She interrupted, voice cutting through the chaos. They've never faced humans this way. And we will prove why that matters. Outside the command center, the city below was collapsing into disarray. Refugee shuttles overloaded with terrified civilians attempted liftoff. Streets were clogged with families clinging to each other. Smoke from incinerated districts rose like black pillars into the gray sky. The Empire's broadcasts repeated across every channel, looping their achievement like a ceremonial execution. Elara ignored the horror for now, stepping toward a secure terminal. Her fingers flew across the interface, pulling data feeds from orbital surveillance, colony registries, and reverse-engineered alien tech. She worked in silence, assembling the raw bones of a plan. Commander Jace Rinaldi arrived without announcement, tall, lean, and hardened by decades of conflict. His eyes were red from exhaustion, but they burned with resolve. Elara, he said, voice steady despite the tension. We can't stop them with conventional weapons. We need a strike that they won't expect. Something unpredictable. She didn't look up. Exactly. Predictable humans die first. Unpredictable humans. She paused, eyes scanning simulations of the alien fleet. Can survive. And strike back. Jace exhaled slowly, letting her words sink in. Then we assemble the team. Engineers, pilots, AI specialists. Every resource we can access. We move tonight. Elara's mind raced. Each second counted. The Empire had superior numbers, firepower, and reach. Every hour their broadcast continued, the threat grew more immediate. But human ingenuity was a variable no algorithm could fully calculate. Every failed tactic, every improvisation, every moral choice had, over centuries, carved victory from impossible odds. She would use it now. She turned to face the room, meeting the eyes of dozens of specialists. Operation Alien Extinct begins tonight. We don't have time for hesitation. Anyone who doubts our ability to fight needs to step aside. A murmur ran through the gathered team, a mix of fear and determination. Elara saw in their faces the spark that had kept humanity alive for millennia, the refusal to yield, even when facing annihilation. Lieutenant Vargas, finally finding his voice, asked, And the civilians? We protect them if we can, she replied, voice softening. But our priority is stopping the Empire. If we don't strike first, there will be nothing left to protect. Hours passed in a blur. Plans were drafted, simulations run, and every conceivable variable accounted for. Elara moved from station to station, checking calculations, urging precision, and most importantly, keeping morale tethered to hope. Outside, the city burned, the air thick with ash and fear, but inside, humans were already thinking beyond death. Already imagining the counter-strike that could turn the tide. By midnight, the first teams were ready. Drones had been prepped for quantum infiltration tests, stealth suits checked for high-risk operations, and coded transmissions set to bypass the Empire's surveillance. Every effort was small, seemingly insignificant against the overwhelming force of the Empire. But small things, when coordinated, could topple giants. Alara paused at the terminal, staring at the simulation of the Empire's flagship. Every detail of its shields, weapon arrays, and patrol routes had been logged and analyzed. She traced a path with her finger. "Here," she said quietly to Jace, who stood beside her. "This is where we hit first. And this," she tapped another point on the holographic map, "is where we distract them. Divide them. Make them vulnerable." Jace nodded, his jaw set. "Risky. But it might just work." Alara allowed herself a brief glance at the live feed of Earth. Cities burned, screams echoed through comms, and millions clung to hope by sheer force of will. Humanity was fragile, but it was alive. And alive was dangerous. "Tonight," she said, voice low but unwavering, "we remind the galaxy why humans survive. Not because we are strong. Not because we are fast. But because we refuse to be predictable. We refuse to be erased." The command center hummed with activity as teams moved into position. Outside, the night sky glowed red from distant fires. Inside, a spark of defiance ignited. Humanity's counterstrike, fragile yet unyielding, had begun. And somewhere across the void, Overlord Krintar's fleet drifted, unaware that the species he deemed insignificant was already plotting its revenge. The orbital stations hummed with tension. Each module was a hive of activity, engineers recalibrating quantum drives, pilots running last-minute simulations, and AI specialists monitoring encrypted channels. Humanity's best minds, brought together in a fragile alliance, were now the spearhead against an empire that had never before faced such unpredictability. Dr. Alara Miles paced the central command hub, her eyes fixed on a holographic model of the Empire's flagship. It rotated slowly in zero gravity, massive, sleek, and impervious, or so it seemed. Each glimmering shield, each weapon array, had been analyzed, dissected, and exploited for weakness. The plan was audacious, borderline impossible, but Alara knew one immutable truth: the Empire relied on precision, but humans thrived on improvisation. "Status report," she said, voice calm but authoritative. Lieutenant Vargas, now steadier than the previous night, answered quickly. "Stealth drones are operational. Quantum cloaking has passed initial tests. All vectors into the flagship's patrol grid are clear, for now." Commander Jace Rinaldi leaned over a console, fingers tapping furiously. "The patrol algorithms are adaptive. If we make a mistake, they'll detect the intrusion immediately. No room for error." Alara's gaze met his. "No room for fear either. This is our only shot." The team had prepared 3 simultaneous strikes: a diversion to draw the fleet's attention, a drone infiltration to disrupt communications, and a human assault on the flagship's energy core. Each operation alone would be considered daring. Together, they were suicidal. The first wave launched silently. Quantum stealth drones slipped past alien sensors, ghost-like against the vast black of space. Inside the command hub, tension was palpable. Screens displayed live telemetry, each frame a heartbeat. When one drone wavered near a patrol route, Alara's hand shot out, steadying the readout. Hold, yes, proceed," she whispered. Jace muttered under his breath. "These things better be faster than I hope." A subtle alarm blinked on the central display. One of the diversion ships had been detected. A siren sounded briefly, then died. The humans had anticipated it. Drones adjusted, weaving between alien fire like threads through a needle. Inside the flagship, alien sentries were already alert, their sensors flickering with anomalies. Overlord Krintar's voice, cold and resonant, commanded calm. "Track them. Predict them. Eliminate all intruders. Alara's lips pressed into a thin line. Predict them? Humans were never predictable. That unpredictability was their edge. She turned to the engineers. Reroute power to the quantum scramblers. Make their predictions useless. The engineers obeyed, hands flying over holographic panels. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then a cascade of alerts lit the hub. Alien targeting systems were scrambling, locking onto ghost signals, phantom objects, and false telemetry. No! Alara commanded. From the observation bay, the team watched as drones breached the flagship's outer hull. Fire erupted from energy turrets, missing by fractions of a meter, guided by sensors that were now chasing illusions. Each drone delivered small payloads, EMP bursts, virus packets, sabotage kits. Systems began to falter, communications dropped, shields flickered, and power distribution became erratic. Jace's jaw tightened. They're adapting faster than we thought. Good, Alara said. That means they're predictable in their response. Push harder. Meanwhile, the diversion fleet engaged the Empire's secondary forces. Explosions dotted the void, bright as nova fragments against the darkness. The humans weren't winning by brute strength, they couldn't, but each maneuver forced the aliens to spread thin, their precision advantage weakened. Lieutenant Vargas watched screens nervously. We've lost visual on Drone 7. That was the one targeting the communications core. Alara's eyes narrowed. We've also gained partial access to their internal systems. Drone 7 has done its job. If it's compromised, it doesn't matter. Keep moving. Hours passed in a blur of calculation, improvisation, and barely controlled chaos. Alara rarely sat. Her mind raced from one problem to another, solving and rescheduling in real time. Every choice carried consequences. Every second wasted increased the risk of total annihilation. Then came the moment they had trained for but never expected to feel: vulnerability. The flagship responded with a coordinated counterstrike, disabling one of the diversion ships and nearly obliterating a support module. Sparks flew across the hub's walls, and alarms screamed. Status? Alara barked. Jace's voice was tight, clipped. Minor losses. Not catastrophic. Drones are holding, but they're detecting anomalies. Our time window is closing. Alara nodded sharply. Then we move to Phase 2. The core strike. A single human assault shuttle, retrofitted with stealth enhancements, detached from the station. Alara watched as it drifted into the gravity shadow of the flagship, its trajectory precise. Inside, Commander Rinaldi gripped the controls, every muscle taut. Here goes everything, he muttered. The shuttle weaved past defenses, taking advantage of every flaw the humans had discovered. Shields flickered as the assault team deployed their payload: energy disruptors, sabotage charges, and precision hacking modules designed to overload the flagship's core systems. From the command hub, Alara monitored the feed, counting seconds like heartbeats. The flagship shuddered violently. Lights flickered across the hull. Power conduits arced, releasing surges that rippled like lightning through alien machinery. Core destabilizing, she whispered. Then a calm voice, unnervingly composed, cut through the tension. Overlord Krintar's communication channel opened, a direct link to the shuttle. Humans, reckless, but persistent. You may win a battle. Not the war. Rinaldi's knuckles whitened on the console. Tell him this isn't a battle. It's a warning. Alara smiled faintly. A warning they'll never forget. As the flagship faltered, the humans executed a controlled retreat. Drones retracted, diversionary ships regrouped, and the assault shuttle disengaged. The first strike had not destroyed the Empire, but it had proven a point. Humans could reach inside the fortress, disrupt, and escape. Alara allowed herself the briefest moment of relief. We've done it, she said softly. The impossible is possible. Jace leaned against the console, exhausted but grinning. We're alive. And we've shown them what humans are willing to do. But even as triumph echoed through the hub, Alara's mind was already calculating the next move. The Empire would retaliate. They would adapt, counter, and strike back harder. Humanity had won a skirmish, but the war had just begun. Lieutenant Vargas approached quietly. "What now?" Alara's eyes met his, fierce and unwavering. "Now we prepare. We learn. And we remind the galaxy, humans survive not because we are strong, but because we refuse to be predictable." The command hub hummed with renewed energy. Outside, the stars were silent, vast, indifferent, but humanity's voice, through courage and ingenuity, had just screamed into the void. The first chapter of Operation Alien Extinct was complete. The Empire knew it faced something new. And humans, for the first time in centuries, felt the exhilarating weight of possibility. The void of space was silent but for the hum of human engines. The fleet drifted near Saturn's rings, using jagged asteroid fields as cover. Every ship, every shuttle, every drone was a calculated risk. Humanity had learned from the first strike. The Empire's power was immense, but it had blind spots, and unpredictability, human ingenuity, could exploit them. Dr. Alara Miles hovered over the command terminal, scanning feeds from every operational unit. "Phase 3 begins now," she said, voice measured but commanding. "Drones infiltrate the remaining fleet. Pilots, coordinate with quantum relays. Every maneuver counts." Commander Jace Rinaldi tightened his grip on the console. "They'll anticipate patterns. They always do. But humans, we don't follow patterns." His grin was grim but alive with the thrill of audacity. The first drones slipped past alien sensors, ghost-like against the shadows of the asteroid belts. They struck at supply convoys, severing energy conduits, and disabling propulsion arrays. The Empire's response was immediate but scattered. Systems faltered as alien commanders struggled to adapt. "Good," Alara muttered. "Divide them. Confuse them. Force errors." The flagship, crippled but still formidable, remained the key target. Humans had discovered a vulnerability, a central AI nexus coordinating the fleet. Disrupt it, and chaos would ripple through the Empire's forces. "Coordinates locked," Lieutenant Vargas reported. "But infiltration will be deadly." Alara's eyes narrowed. "Deadly isn't new. Deadly is survival. Prepare the strike team." The assault shuttle detached from the fleet, cloaked in stealth fields, and sailed toward the flagship's shadow. Inside, Rinaldi's crew adjusted their course, carefully threading between automated patrol drones. The silence in the cockpit was tense, each second measured against possibility and catastrophe. Rinaldi glanced at his navigator. "Remember, the AI nexus is our target. We disable it, we destabilize the fleet. Nothing else matters." Meanwhile, Alara coordinated the fleet from orbit. "Diversion teams, deploy decoys along the periphery. Draw attention away. Timing is everything. Execute in 3, 2, 1. A pulse of light streaked through the asteroid field, decoy ships emitting false signatures, mimicking entire squadrons. Alien sensors latched onto the illusions. Their guns fired indiscriminately, scattering against rocks, missing actual human vessels. Inside the flagship, systems began to flicker. The AI, unable to reconcile phantom threats with real targets, hesitated, recalculated, and finally overextended. "Now!" Alara shouted. Rinaldi's shuttle breached the hull, deploying disruption charges directly to the AI core. Sparks erupted as alien machinery convulsed under the assault. Data streams overloaded, firewalls collapsed, and the flagship shuddered violently. Overlord Krintar's voice echoed through secure channels, filled with disbelief and cold fury. "Humans, reckless but cunning. You may destroy systems, but not me." Alara leaned closer to her console. "Tell him humans aren't here to play by rules. We're here to survive." The AI core began to implode, cascading failures across the flagship. Shield generators faltered. Weapon arrays misfired, some turning on their own vessels. The Empire's fleet, without centralized coordination, became chaotic. Ships collided with debris, tumbled uncontrollably, or were forced into defensive postures. Rinaldi's team worked quickly, retreating with precision. The shuttle dodged collapsing corridors and disabled turrets. Core destabilization is complete, he confirmed. We're out. In the command hub, the team exhaled collectively. Cheers were brief. The work was far from done. But for the first time, humanity held the upper hand. Elara's eyes scanned the live feed. The flagship, crippled and adrift, was a shadow of invincibility. Other alien ships floundered, their fleet coordination disrupted. We've done it, she said softly, allowing herself a moment of pride. Not by strength, but by adaptability. Jay smirked, leaning against the console. Humans are infuriatingly clever. Every time they think they've outsmarted us, we find another way. That's why we survive. But Elara knew the Empire would respond. Krintar was patient, calculating, and relentless. If they struck back immediately, humans could still be annihilated. She had to consolidate, learn, and prepare. Prepare boarding teams, she ordered. We're taking control of their compromised systems. We extract intelligence, salvage tech, and ensure they cannot regroup quickly. Every second counts. Lieutenant Vargas looked nervous. And Krintar? Elara's gaze hardened. Krintar will underestimate us. He always does. That's the human advantage. He believes in prediction, in superiority. We believe in choice. In unpredictability. The boarding teams moved with precision, securing control nodes, rerouting energy, and downloading critical data. Each step revealed more about the Empire's infrastructure, supply chains, patrol routines, even strategies previously thought unbreakable. Humanity had learned to fight not with firepower alone, but with intelligence, improvisation, and moral resolve. As the flagship's systems fell under human control, Krintar's presence finally materialized in the communications network. His alien form shimmered on the display, massive and imposing, eyes glowing with calculated fury. You persist, human, he said, voice resonating through every channel. But your defiance is futile. The galaxy does not favor weakness. Elara leaned into the comm panel, unflinching. You mistake defiance for weakness. It's our strength. You measure power in destruction, we measure it in resilience, ingenuity, and choice. And those, you cannot calculate. Krintar's form flickered, frustration evident despite centuries of control. Then you will pay, for this insolence. Elara's voice was calm, resolute. We already have. And we're still here. For a long moment, silence followed. Then Krintar withdrew his presence, the signal cutting off abruptly. Humanity had won the battle, but the war was far from over. Yet the psychological victory was monumental. The Empire had been shown that humans could strike, disrupt, and survive against impossible odds. Elara stepped back from the console, exhaustion etched on her face, but a faint smile played at her lips. We've turned the tide today. The Empire will remember that humans aren't just survivors. We're unpredictable, resourceful, and relentless. Jace placed a hand on her shoulder. And terrifyingly clever. They'll think twice before targeting us again. Outside, the void remained indifferent, stars cold and silent witnesses to the clash. But humanity had screamed into the darkness and left a mark. HFY was no longer just a story of survival. It was a declaration. Humans were capable of unity, courage, and ingenuity that no empire, no matter how advanced, could fully anticipate. Elara looked at the screens one last time, watching the crippled flagship drift helplessly among the asteroids. We fight, we survive, we adapt, and we win, she said softly. This is humanity. This is why we endure. The fleet began to regroup, preparing for the next inevitable challenge. But the Empire, for the first time, knew it was facing a species that refused erasure. And humanity, for the first time in centuries, felt the exhilaration of true possibility.